Hi, I'm Dr. Gwen. I'm a clinical psychologist who's been empowering disabled individuals, their families, and their support systems for over 20 years. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, where I curate tools, share mindsets, and promote habits to help the neurodiverse community thrive. Also, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. In this episode, I interview Crystal Hayes from the College Internship Program, or CIP. CIP is a comprehensive residential transition program that empowers young adults with learning differences, Autism Spectrum Disorders, and ADHD to succeed in college, employment, and independent living. Crystal lovingly refers to CIP as a trampoline versus a safety net, where they help young adults bounce back from inevitable bumps and mistakes along the path to achieving one's independence. Crystal and I talk about what students are a good fit for CIP, how students in California can pay for CIP, and C-STEP, CIP's vocational and career readiness program. With 2 campuses in California, 1 in Massachusetts, 1 in Florida, and 1 in Indiana, there are some pretty cool options for neurodivergent young adults to find their groove. Hi, Crystal. Thanks for being here and welcome to the channel.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, before we start kind of getting into CIP, let's have you just tell everyone who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, my name is Crystal Hayes. I am the interim program director at CIP Long Beach and have been here at CIP Long Beach for the last 6 years. I began here as an advisor, and that's where I really see my passion and my expertise come through, is in coaching young adults and coaching families through this experience of transitioning from adolescence to young adulthood. And it's what I really find as my passion and the team's passion here at CIP Long Beach. So that's what I really love about being here. My background began in music education. I have a bachelor's degree in instrumental music education, and started out my path in teaching as a band director, and then later performing, and really changed my path a number of years ago toward the special education realm, and received a master's degree in special education, and started to come more into this field, and really found my place and my calling in this field. So it's a beautiful background to be able to mesh creativity and education. I think that helps kind of spark the fire in some of our students as well, is kind of increasing that creativity in their everyday life.
Absolutely. And that our students don't fit squarely into a box, and so being able to roll with things, stay curious, be creative, I think are some of the greatest assets to supporting young people that have neurodiversities or disabilities. It's a great skill to have. It's so funny, Crystal. There's so many people now that I have interviewed that all have backgrounds in music.
Yep. It's a dynamic area. When I think about my background in music and how it's impacted my current career, I've traveled the world with music. I've met people from a variety of different backgrounds. I've learned to be flexible. These are all things that we are teaching and modeling for our students on the daily. So that kind of dynamic life of knowing when to speed up, when to slow down, when to give things space, it's all related to music when you ask me.
Yeah, it's great. It's like such a great process to draw from, that's funny. When we're done with the interview, I'll talk to you about band. I was in a band for a long time as well. So I love, we'll do that later. I don't think people want to hear about our band experience.
Beautiful.
So yeah, let's get into CIP. And if you could talk to us and, just start by educating the audience about what is CIP? What does it even stand for? I mean, as I'm throwing around the acronym, but what does it stand for?
Yeah, so CIP stands for College Internship Program. We were founded by Dr. McMahon, Dr. Michael McMahon, in 1984. So we are actually really pushing past that 35-year mark. And he began CIP in Lee, Massachusetts in 1984 as a way to find or develop a community-based alternative to the typical kind of institutionalized living for students with autism and other learning differences. It really, we have a residential supported living type of environment. And so there's a lot of natural environment that the learning is taking place in. It's a comprehensive type of program where students are learning, college skills, that career path and preparation for their career. They're learning social skills, financial management, life skills, safety in the apartment, living with a roommate. All of these things happen under one roof, and they happen in one environment. And so having that, we talked a little bit before a few minutes ago about how everything connects. And when you have all of these things under one roof, you really are supporting yourself, right? When you have social skills at the same time as academics, when you have financial management at the same time as living skills and life skills in your apartment, you are building those skills one on top of the other, and they're all interdependent on each other, right? So, building those social skills can create a much more confident approach to meeting with your professors or to talking to your boss. Learning to manage those finances helps keep you out of trouble when you're living independently. Helps you to know that delayed gratification and prioritizing your needs versus your wants. All of these things are happening under one roof, and I think that's what's really special about CIP. At the same time that they're receiving all of these services, they're really focusing on coping strategies and just navigating the world as an adult as opposed to as a child or as an adolescent. So we oftentimes refer to programs and services like ours as a safety net, and I've challenged that myself a number of times, and I prefer to call us a trampoline. So you fall down, we're going to bounce you back up. There's everybody will fall. We know that. We will all fail, and that's where the biggest learning experience happens. So, CIP really is a program designed to bounce the person back up and get them back on the road to success. So, when we look at CIP in how it functions within our students' lives, our main goal is to provide them with the tools necessary to be successful after CIP. So we love having them here. This is it's a beautiful community, but those tools after they leave here are what's really important for us to impart upon them while they're here.
Yeah. And would you consider, Crystal, CIP a transitional program?
Absolutely. So it's a post-secondary transition program. We do have students from ages 18 to 26. Oftentimes, that fluctuates from year to year. I would say right now, our average age of a student is about 21, 22. So, students are coming from all different backgrounds. Maybe they're coming from straight out of high school, and this is their transition into that post-secondary environment and into young adulthood. It could be that they have attended college before, maybe held a job or an internship before, and things haven't quite panned out, or their goals are not necessarily being realized in that environment. And so then they're coming to us with a little bit of experience. And it may be that they're experiencing a failure to launch. It might be that they're coming to us from kind of sitting there and going, I'm 23 years old. I need to make some moves, and I'm ready to do that. And that's the key for anybody that's here at CIP, is that they're ready to take this step and they're motivated to take this step.
Yes. So let's talk about ready to take the step, because I think that that's something that comes up quite a bit. That idea of I'm ready to engage in a program and do the work that it's going to take to build the skills that I need, right?
Yeah.
To take the responsibility of my life and to own it, and how awesome that is, but how scary that can be.
Yes.
Is there something that you guys do in regards to screening for that, or helping kind of students or families become aware of that intrinsic or autonomous desire of readiness to move? Because I can imagine that someone coming into your program that isn't really ready for that yet, that might be a hard place for them to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a formal process standpoint, we love to give tours, especially of CIP Long Beach. We love it because a lot of times when you step into an environment that feels supportive, that feels comfortable, as a student, when you feel welcome, you see other students that are in your same position here thriving and walking around and chatting with their friends. These are things that are motivating to you. And you may not be able to picture those things without really being in the environment or seeing what that community is like. So I think, one thing that I think is really important in the process of becoming motivated is starting to tour around, starting to experience. We do what's called shadow days for students who are interested, and it's an opportunity for students who are interested, or maybe they don't know that they're interested yet, to interact, or to be, more of a wallflower and just observe. It's a low pressure environment to either observe or interact, but to see how other people roughly your age are navigating this kind of same experience. So, and I'll probably litter our interview here with student stories, because that's really where the most learning comes from about our environment. But, I'll tell you about one student that we have here right now who was late diagnosed at age 18, and did not really know what she was looking for or where her place was. But she came for a shadow day, and she connected with another student who was late diagnosed. They just had a conversation with each other while she was here visiting. And it was a connection that was really important to her, to see that there are other people who are just learning about their diagnosis and what it is that they need to be successful. And what she's told us is that CIP was the answer to the question, right? It was the answer to the question that I didn't even know I had. I just knew I needed something. And when I started having those conversations with my peers, then I knew, like, that was the direction to go. So I think there's a lot of value in finding connection with others that are in your same position and seeing them thrive. Motivation's a hard thing to pin down, it's different for everybody. But with that tour and that seeing how the community operates, we've seen body language change. We've seen parents say, yeah, that's the first time that I've seen them actually interested in being a part of something. So that's really important to us. We actually have a summer program that we start engaging students in high school. So we have a summer program that runs at each of our centers. Last year, of course, we started doing it virtually as well and having those options. But it's an opportunity for high school students to have more of a summer camp feel. But to make those connections that I'm talking about, right? To find somebody, or to connect with a friend or an acquaintance, whatever they're ready for. But it lets them know there's other people to support them out there.
Yeah. And, to this point, sometimes I don't know what I want because I haven't seen it. So, right. I if I see it, then I might know. And the other piece is, motivation is a really interesting thing, which is sometimes we just need to try something and act and engage in actions, and then that action leads to motivation.
Yep.
So we don't usually start with motivation first, the feeling of wanting to do something, because it might, there's lots of reasons for that. But I love that idea of the shadow days, and having that experience, doing a summer, like being part of your summer program to see what that feels like. So, Crystal, as a transition program, it's residential. They're living together. Are they living together in a dorm-like setting, an apartment-like setting? How does the residential piece look?
Sure. Yeah. So all of our students live in 2-bedroom apartments. We do have a couple of 3-bedroom apartments, but the point there is that each student has their own space, right? It's important, we find through this transition to have that space of your own to be able to retreat to when you need to take care of your own space and learn what that's like. But you also are sharing common areas. You're sharing the living room, you're sharing the bathroom, you're sharing the kitchen. And especially we know in Southern California how expensive it is to live on your own. And so really teaching the students that, long term, a realistic space to be is to learn how to live with somebody else, to learn how to manage your space, but also share a space with somebody else. So they live very close to our center. Apartments are right across the parking lot. So it's a short walk to our supports for us to go to them and work with them on cooking skills, cleaning skills, roommate meetings, and just navigating independent life. And for them to come to us, to the center here, to receive other services, whether that be, social skills module or, coming here to go through their budget for the week. So it's independent enough and close enough that your support system is close by.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how, in regards to all of the support services, the social supports, the money supports, the cleaning support, all of that, how does the frequency or the intensity of that get determined for a student?
Sure. Yeah. So the first term in the program, typically students are receiving upwards of 27 to 30 hours per week of programming. That includes anything from what we've talked about with financial management skills to, starting to build your resume, to registering for classes, to cooking and knife safety in the kitchen, or feeling safer on open flame if you've got a gas stove. So working on all of these pieces, but that first term really is assessing where the student's at and what their specific needs are, right? We tailor our program to the student's individual needs, although it's not a one-on-one service all the time. Like the importance there in understanding whether a student is ready to move to a small group kind of practice situation with those things, anywhere from starting with an individual cooking module and then moving to a cooperative cooking with your roommate, then moving into a tier where maybe you're cooking for other friends. So starting to really assess where does the student's skill lie when they come into the program. And as they move throughout the program, what we should start to see is that they're receiving less CIP supports and they're taking more classes, or they're receiving more hours at their internship. And we're starting to kind of wean them off of these supports and scaffold the supports for them so that it's not a Band-Aid being ripped off when they leave the program, that they are starting to, again, transition. It's all about transition, right? But they're starting to transition into that independence gradually and feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, awesome. And then you were talking about some of them might do some college classes or be enrolled in college. Some of them, you also talked about internships.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. Sure. So with our career readiness type of program, what we prepare the students for is we prepare them to get the job and keep the job. So we don't necessarily place students in their paid jobs, but we prepare them for that experience. And we do that by starting on kind of a gradual increase of responsibility and interaction and networking. We start with the expectation that each of our students is receiving or completing, almost said customer service, community service every term, and giving back to the community, starting to really assess where are my interests, what are some of these transferable skills that will help me be successful. Mm-hmm. And then we move into an internship. So even our students who are focused on academics, which is 85% plus of our students are focused on their academic courses, they will still seek internships for even 1 to 2 hours a week just to start getting that experience and making those connections. So if it's somebody who's interested in theater, right? We had a student who was doing an usher internship at the local playhouse. If it's somebody who's interested in customer service, maybe we are working with CVS or with a party store in town, something that's of interest, but also starts to build those transferable skills that can bring them to the next level of their independence with career.
And you're helping them with making those internship connections.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, so for us, it's really important to be able to find an opportunity for the student that speaks to their interests, because we all know, as we talked about with motivation, that a preferred task is likely to motivate a lot more than an unpreferred task. So if you are going to an internship that you don't enjoy, or that doesn't speak to your strengths, it doesn't speak to your interests, you're much less likely to give your 100% in that internship. So really starting to see, where does the student's strength lie, and can we build a partnership with somebody in town
Mm-hmm.
that would be a good fit for that specific student.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think finding a career or understanding what I might want to do for a living, the internships and the work experiences really are so critical because it opens up new possibilities. It's hard for us to predict, I think, sometimes what's going to work, or
Yeah.
what I might even like. And it's not until I get into an experience or a job where I say, oh, I really like this, but I really don't like this either. Like,
Yeah.
where we learn and then we build upon that experience, and it gets us closer to a career or vocation that we're really going to enjoy, and how important it is to really harness interest in this, because
Absolutely.
learning is hard, for a lot of my clients who have learning differences, neurodiversities. Learning is hard. And
Yep.
so if you're going to apply the work, hopefully it's got to be valuable,
That's it.
and
That's
interesting.
exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. You have got to feel that connection. We talked about the social connection, the feeling of connection to an environment. You've got to feel that connection and feel that it is feeding you to really wake up in the morning. I mean, a lot of our students are struggling sometimes with even just waking up in the morning and getting that routine started.
Yep.
But when the end result is the benefit of going and doing something that you really love and you really enjoy, then that routine becomes a little bit more, I won't say easy, right? We all know getting up in the morning and going through routines is challenging, but it becomes more reasonable to you as a person. Like, I'm getting up for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, it helps me overcome a feeling. In other, like
Yep,
it's not just like I feel like not getting up. It's like I might feel like not getting up, and there's something for me to look forward to, so I am going to. So if
absolutely.
to be able to overcome that, I think is so great. Crystal, how long do students typically? I know this changes for all your students, but is
Sure.
there a time duration or length of time in which they have to take advantage of the CIP services?
Yeah, so if you're looking at, of course, there's a low end and a high end as far as years that a student's in the program, but a lot of our students are on average staying 2 to 4 years. When you look at that, if you're looking to go into a program for 1 year, when we look at the first year of CIP programming and really starting to dive into that independence, to become comfortable in that, to start to explore your interests, by the time you're done with that first year, now you're really ready to learn, right? You're ready to apply those things that you've just started to explore and to really see that success in that second and third year. That's not to say we don't have students who have gone 5 years in the program as well. If they are really striving to meet their goals, they're working hard, and CIP's been a really good support for them. Oftentimes they'll say, I just need one more year. I just want to finish my transfer credits so I can get to that university that I've been aiming toward, but I need this support for this one more year.
Yeah.
So it really, it does vary by person, but on average, we're seeing about 2 to 4 years in the program.
Got it. Got it. And then what would you say is the best kind of profile of student or individual for CIP? So, really trying to get here when you know exactly what CIP's model looks like and what it can provide. When you get this specific student or
Mhm.
person, magic happens because it comes together. What does that student look like?
That is an excellent question. And I say that because sometimes the student doesn't look like that when they first start the program,
Yeah.
right? So and actually, it's interesting because I kind of polled our team earlier, and I asked them, what are some stories of students that have been really successful in this model, right? When you really look at our students, who has been very successful in this model and why? And our team's answer to that question was, it typically is a student who is, well, number one, motivated. And when we say motivated, sometimes that's just knowing that somewhere inside you want to start to move toward your goals. It doesn't mean you're gung-ho waking up every morning like, this is exactly what I want to do. I'm ready to work hard every minute of the day. You're really, everybody's coming in at a different point. But some of the most successful students that we've seen in the program are those students who are really, they know they want to do well. They know they want to be the best version of themselves, but they just can't quite picture what's the best version of myself yet, right? So we really start to see them come into their own in that first year, and to start to see, through person-centered planning, through, exploring, what's your end result? What do you have to offer? Like we always talk to the students about their character traits, right? What do you have to offer? Any environment you walk into, any relationship you walk into, what are you bringing to the table? And starting to really focus on their self-knowledge. So I think when we look at that, we're looking at a student who knows they want to get somewhere, they know they want to move forward, but they're not quite sure how yet. And we are here to help them reach their full potential. There's a time for everything, the way I see it, right? There's a time for everything in everybody's lives. So, just because you're 18 or 19 doesn't necessarily mean that you are ready for that transition and fully ready for that transition. So, a student who's showing readiness, that's an excellent thing. That's a really great sign that they're going to be really responsive to the supports that we have here, and then start to come into their own. So we are doing right now person-centered planning meetings with our families and our students, and starting to every year at this time, we go through their progress. We start to say, like, okay, so last year, your 1 year goal was this. Where are we at on all of those things? And starting to celebrate that. And it's cool to see the team and the students light up when they start to talk about how far somebody's come. Like, when you came into the program, you thought you wanted to go down this path, but now you're going down this path and you are finding so much success. And they're starting to really see and understand, how am I going to interact with the world moving forward? So I think that's the biggest component of being successful and being kind of the ideal fit, if you want to say that, for the program, is knowing you want to move forward and being open to people helping you get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so your students, it sounds like your students vary in regards to their kind of end goal, meaning they're not necessarily all degree seeking, it sounds like, right? Some of them, so you can be degree seeking students, it can be certificate completion or competence level students. And then do you ever have students that actually are just going straight for vocational or career training or career readiness?
We sure do, yeah. And we have a program that we run here called C-STEP. It's kind of our vocational preparation program. And our students who are on the C-STEP track really are seeing their end goal as a focus in career readiness and being prepared for that career. Yeah. Our academic students, oftentimes we will start to work with them on connecting their major to what they want to do afterwards, and making sure that their major aligns with what they want to do afterwards. But we do have students who come into the program just wanting to go into that job, wanting to go into that internship, and having a very clear picture of what it is they want to do. We have a student here who, she came in saying, my goal is, and my dream is to work for Disney, and went through a number of different experiences before landing the job at Disney. And it's, oftentimes, they are the students who are coming in wanting to get that job or wanting to get that career. They're doing interview practicing, they are doing role playing, they're doing informational interviews with people in the community, and really starting to dive into that. And then we've seen them start to explore academics through that. So a student on our career track right now, really identified, actually, I want to move in the direction of culinary arts. And so now she started taking a class in culinary arts on campus as a career student. So everything's intertwined there, but there's of course flexibility to start taking academics when you're just career focused and coming into the program. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great. And I mean, I will say for a lot of my clients, when they've come out of their high school experiences with quite a bit of academic failure, they
yeah,
don't necessarily want to go right into a program where they're seeing a lot more of their life being spent on academics. And then what
absolutely.
happens is when they go to their career readiness or vocational training, and they're starting to understand what they might want to do, even if they had an inkling of this before, now they're like, okay, now I want to take classes to support this idea, this career that I see for myself. And all of a sudden, now there's value behind the class, And so that's super
Absolutely.
cool how, whatever it is, I think what's neat is that you are supporting students on different tracks. So, 'cause there's some programs that are just, diploma seeking or degree seeking students, right? Like
Right.
there's some of those programs out there, some non-degree seeking,
Yep.
period. It's just all vocation and career. But it
Yep.
sounds like you guys can, you can go either way and have a kind of a hybrid here.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, it's how do we get you prepared for the life that you want to live as an adult? And that
That's exactly it.
there's some potential for a healthy interdependence there when they come out of your program.
Absolutely. Yep. And not being afraid to intermingle the two, you
Yeah.
know? And even if you had a poor experience in academics and that's why you're seeking careers, like I said before, being ready for something is a key in being successful in that thing as well, right? So
Yeah.
when you are ready and feeling confident enough, and this is all tying into my final thought for our interview today. But I
Yeah.
think that, when you are ready for something, then you are feeling more confident and more able to bring yourself to the place where you can take on that class that influences your career, or you can start to take on that internship that meets you where you're at academically.
Right.
So being, kind of meeting the student where they are, that's a huge part of the process for helping them to be successful, is understanding where they're at and how that plays into where they want to be.
Yeah, and that they're the ones driving that vehicle.
Yep.
Coming out of high school, if they've come out of an IEP or any kind of supports, the adults in their life typically are doing that. Versus now, they're adults and they're now central to the decisions that they're making. And so that's
Yeah.
a big leap, And so to have that longer runway, that softer landing, that trampoline, is so
Yes.
helpful because we know that more feedback, more support is typically necessary and helpful to help that launch sequence. So that's what it
Right.
sounds like you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of, it all speaks to that ability to self-advocate as well. You're talking about how, you really have somebody else who is your voice, up until you leave high school or you kind of fly the nest.
Yeah.
And when you come to a transition program like CIP, you're now in a position where you have got to start learning to advocate for yourself and taking on some of those responsibilities that maybe your parent or your family was taking on before. And as you start to become more comfortable with that self-advocacy, now you're starting to be able to realize, okay, this is actually what I want and where I need the support, and this is who can help me get that. It's really starting to put the pieces together at this point. So whatever path that is you choose, you're starting to pull all of the pieces of what you've been learning and what you're experiencing here and putting them all together to see, okay, how does all of this inform, my next step or what I'm actually working toward?
Yeah. And, in regards to getting the support where you're meeting the student, does that happen, Crystal, one-on-one? Does it happen like in group settings? How exactly is that support? I know it's probably varied, but if you could give us an idea of how that support would be given, let's say for a student in their first year,
Sure.
what does that look like?
Sure. So student in their first year coming into the program, they are receiving more one-on-one supports than students, in their third, fourth year in the program, of course. But really what we're seeing is that the biggest growth from that student is coming from those small groups. So we have a variety. We've got one-on-one services. We've got, small group supports, which would be about 3 to 5 students and a staff member. And then we've got larger group supports that are about 7 to 8 students. And then entire group supports, which is always really fun when it's 60 students and staff in a room together interacting. And every single one of those types of support has a different influence on the person, right? So when you are learning a skill and you're learning kind of the structure of a skill and how it all works, that one-on-one is really helpful. But when you start to know the skill and practice the skill, just practicing with staff is not often the best place to develop and to learn. Practicing with your peers, practicing with people that are at the same kind of level, if not at a different level than you are. And, the highest level of learning being that we can teach somebody else. And so really feeding off of those other peers that are within that group, that's where the most learning happens, is in the group environment. Or the deeper, kind of that deeper, longer lasting learning experience where you can start to apply it to other situations. And a first year student might be receiving a heavier level of one-on-one services, but after that first term, it's pretty quick. They start to move into the small groups. They start to practice those skills and really see them play out in their environment.
That's awesome. Yeah. So really kind of scaffolding that intervention, one-on-one to very small group to kind of small group to the big group, and then of course generalized across.
Yeah, and they all operate at the same time, right? So, a student's not going to have an entire year where everything they do is individual. They are going to have, maybe it's that the easiest kind of example is through our social skills department to kind of play it out there, right? You have that one-on-one time with staff where you're starting to talk about, like, what are the ways that you can, initiate conversation with someone else? Like, let's go through some of those, those scripts or even those kind of rules of engagement in initiating conversation with somebody that you don't know. And then the next day, they might have a social mentoring group that's a small group with others who are working on initiating conversation, and they just role play with each other. They practice. And then maybe they go to, we do run the Peers Young Adult curriculum out of UCLA. And, the students are then starting to see, okay, like, now what are the rules when I'm initiating conversation? Do I text that person right after I've just met them and start asking questions? Do I, starting to just kind of learn, okay, when I do initiate that conversation, what now? And those groups are a little bit larger and they start to, experience that throughout the week. Basically, they have different opportunities to practice those skills in different group sizes, which just influences the learning that much more.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, that is so great. And then I have a weird question, because I think this might be a question that someone in the audience or the community might have, which is, you guys are located. I'm talking to you. You're here at Long Beach. Mm-hmm. So we're in California. But how does the funding usually roll for CIP? Like, is it possible to have that partially funded by regional centers and private? I mean, like, how do people usually fund CIP?
Sure. So when you look at we have 5 centers around the country. We have 2 in California, 1 in Indiana, 1 in Florida, and 1 in Massachusetts. Largely, there are a number of different ways that somebody would go about funding the program, from private paying the entire program to, on occasion, families have been able to receive support from a school district. And then we're lucky enough here in California to be vendored through the regional center as a support provider. So, it's huge for our families to be able to have some of that program cost and actually the entire cost of the program covered by regional center. So we are vendored with the regional centers, and that's a big part of our California funding source in this area. Of course, any students that aren't living in California and are coming in from out of state, they're funding the program in a different variety. But
right.
yeah,
But
but
that's awesome.
we do work with the regional centers.
That's awesome. That is so great for those of us that live in California. But that's so awesome. Okay, well, Crystal, I always end all my interviews this way. So you'll be no different. But if you could only choose one skill to empower in your students, what would it be and why?
Yes. So I've put, like I said, a lot of thought into this question. And I think the skill that I would empower our students with is self-efficacy. The amount of ability and sheer opportunity to thrive is there. I mean, just the breadth of what skills our students bring and what their love of, certain interests and all of those things. But if you don't believe that you're going to be successful at that, you don't really believe that you have it in you to do that, then you're not going to take that step, right? That's part of it, is like motivation, confidence, all of these things I think come from self-efficacy and really believing that you have it in you to be successful. So that's what I would empower our students with, is just the belief that they have it in them to tackle the goals that they're coming here with.
Yeah, that they can. They
Yep.
have the capability to do it.
That's it. Yep. Yeah. That's it. I mean, when I was just walking through the center, and we have, of course, limited capacity these days, but we do have students in our center. And I was walking through and just honestly thinking about the path of the students that were in the room at the time, and where they've kind of come from. And as you go through your time at CIP, one thing that every staff member here would point out, I'm sure, is that every year that student presents their person-centered plan and talks about their goals, they have more confidence in their ability to actually meet the goals that they've put on there. So They know how to do it. They know what tools they need. They start to feel that that I can. That's exactly it. And if you feel that you can't, it's just a huge blockade in your way. So that to us is something to empower all of our students with the second they walk in the door, is you can. And it's hard. Nobody said it would be easy, but you can. And giving them that strength and that courage to actually go there.
I love that. I love that. Well, if anyone is listening to this, what is the best way to find out more about CIP?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website, cipworldwide.org, has a wealth of information on it about not only our admissions process, but each of our centers. We all operate under the same foundational principles and values, but each center, obviously, Berkeley and Bloomington and Brevard, everything has a different kind of environment to it. So you can really get a feel through our website of what each CIP center offers. And I encourage people to go and kind of go through that website. We also have a social media presence through Facebook, through Instagram, and that's a great way as well. There are YouTube videos out there that are really fun. We do here every year at CIP Long Beach, we do a lip sync video, and it is a great way to show what our community of students and staff really kind of looks like, I guess, the makeup of our community and staff, how much fun we have. So there's a presence out there to be able to see a variety of different perspectives of CIP. But I would start with the website, cipworldwide.org, and just start browsing there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal, for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for spending your time here. If you're interested in finding out more about the College Internship Program, I've included their information in the description below. If you got any value from this interview, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Doing so helps to get this information to others just like you. See you in the next video, and thanks for watching.